Here's my top 10 songs in the key of C major. These are pretty essential songs to learn if you want to progress beyond the beginner stages on acoustic guitar. Most of them use open chords, but we've got a couple of bar chords in there. But the main crux of this video is making sure that you're aware of musical keys and the key of C major, because C major has no sharps and flats, which makes it fantastic for learning all these basic concepts of how songs are written, of how we can learn songs faster, of what common chords are grouped together. So let's just have a recap on that. The key of C major derives from the C major scale, which has no sharps or flats, and it starts with a C note and plays C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. This is also the same as Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. But we tend to use C, D, E so that we can number these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then turn each of these numbers into a root note and then into a major or minor chord. The first note, the C, is major, that makes C major. The next note is D, that's the second, so we'd play a minor, D minor. Third is an E, that's also minor. The 4 and 5 are major. So there's the F, and there's our F major chord. The 5 is G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next is an A, and that's the 6, so that is minor. The final one before we repeat is a B, and there's how we'd properly play a B diminished chord. That one never really gets used. It's commonly a slash chord, normally a C/B. As we will see in our chord progressions. If that is totally new to you, I've left some links in the description below where I've done more videos on YouTube that explain that. But we're just going to get straight on with learning all this practically through songs, and I'll say anything relevant to each song as we go through. But we're going to start off with perhaps the most famous song in the world, which is in the key of C major. This is famous worldwide. This is La Bamba. The basic chords are C, F, and G throughout the whole song. And of course we have the signature riff, which even though it starts on a G, that is all using the C major scale, and every note in a C major chord, in an F major chord, and a G major chord are all from the C major scale as well. That's what defines the key of C major and defines any musical key. Doesn't mean that there's no other notes exclusively, but it does mean that the notes that we say are from the scale, so the diatonic notes of the chord, they all just use the C major scale. That's what defines the key, and we'll cover that as we go through. It also means we use a lot of the same chords. So C, F, and G are the 3 major chords in the key of C major, and they're the first, 4th, and 5th notes of the major scale. The next most common chord to be added to that is a minor 6, and in the key of C, that is A minor. Adding an A minor to C, F, and G would give us a number of fantastic songs, but perhaps the most popular song that uses these 4 chords would be Let It Be by the Beatles, which includes those 4 chords and a little melody. It was written on piano. That uses all the white notes on a piano. Even the melody run, that is just using the white keys, and that's a really important concept to get. Music is literally color-coded on piano, but that is not a pattern that's unique to the piano. That's a pattern that's unique to all music, because the naturals are the white notes and the black keys are the sharps and flats. In this case, we're mostly sticking to the white notes, even though that's not illustrated on the guitar. The same thing is happening. It's there in the music when we write it down or in the music itself. Another popular song that uses exactly the same chords is No Woman, No Cry. It does a very similar thing. Even that run up there is quite similar to using the same notes as La Bamba. So songs in the same key do similar things. It really helps you when learning this stuff. But a song in the key of C doesn't have to start on a C major. The chord progression can change. It's the chords in the chord progression that are important, not necessarily which one you start on. However, most songs that are in the key of C absolutely start on a C major. The song or the chord progression perhaps might end on a C major, or perhaps C is the most common chord. If any two of those things are correct in your song, it's probably that key when you look at the chord progression. That is the case for most of the songs in this list. But it's not exclusive. It doesn't need to be that way. And a great example that you can play with those same 4 chords where the first chord is an F is Learning to Fly by Tom Petty. This is just a great example of a song where we start on an F chord, but then it instantly resolves to this C major. When I play these chords, because they're in the key of C, and then the most common chords in the key of C, you can feel that resolve to C. And that's a really important thing to feel kind of when you're listening to this, because if you can feel that resolve, you're well on the way to learning something called relative pitch, which is how you can learn songs just by listening. It's not perfect pitch you need, it's relative pitch, relative to the chords and notes that follow each other, rather than having no reference tone at all, just hearing a note and going, I know what note that is, I can name that. That's perfect pitch, that's a skill that some people have, but it's not as learnable, trainable, or as useful. Remember that. So songs in the key of C do not have to start on a C major. They can start on any other chord at all. And they don't even have to include exclusively songs that just are from that diatonic C major, C, D minor, E minor, etc. We can have what we call accidentals, which are a sharp or a flat where there would be a natural. So for example, if E minor is typically our third chord in the key of C major, we know, because we've learned a bunch of songs that use an E major, that E major can happen as well. The classic example of that is Imagine by John Lennon. Of course, this is like the bridge section a little later in the song. You may say I'm a dreamer. We can again hear that resolve to the C, but the E major kind of keeps it on its toes. And then the rest of the song, C to F, happens an awful lot in that song. There are many songs that reference that exact chord progression, but perhaps the most obvious and the most famous is Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis. Because if we take the full chord progression, slip inside the eye of your mind. From the E major, it literally goes in the same order, E, F, G, and C. Same 4 chords, same order, directly referencing Imagine, perhaps subconsciously, but undoubtedly in the key of C major. And that is a longer chord progression than just our 4 chord progressions that we've mostly looked at so far. It's an essential song if you want to progress in this kind of strumming style. A bonus one you probably want to check out, because Oasis have an abundance of fantastic acoustic guitar songs, is Half the World Away. Biggest thing to be aware of with Half the World Away is that it uses a swing strumming pattern rather than a straight 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 as the underlying pulse of the song. So when we strum it, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Another thing you want to be aware of when you're learning about musical keys is that there's a relative minor key which uses the same chords as the relative major key. For example, C major, its relative minor key is A minor, and for the most part, it's basically the same chords that are going to happen in a song that is in A minor as in the key of C major. The one to watch out for is that E major is much more common than E minor in the key of A minor, but actually, to illustrate this, I found a song that basically starts off in A minor and then the chorus is very much in C major. And this is Wild World by Cat Stevens. Fabulous song. Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. Great picking exercise in the chorus. And of course, from what we've covered so far, you can tell that this is in the key of C major. C major. major, G, F, G, F, C. But then the verses and the intro, A minor, D7, G, C, F, D minor, and E. So that's using a lot of the letters of the chords that we've used already in the key of C, but it is making some of them major, especially the D, which is a D7, and the E, there's also an E sus4, and they're the two to watch out for in the key of C major, and its relative key of A minor. Just be aware of that. It's not a huge thing to question at this time, at this late beginner, early intermediate stage that this video is intended for, but it does help that it uses most of the same letters and most of the same chords. It should be noted that most of these songs on this list were written or primarily played on piano, but they work fantastic on guitar, and we can learn a lot from that. I wanted to cover the next two songs that are really piano songs, but they sound great on guitar, and they're basically rock songs. They're fantastic. We're going to start off with an Elton John classic. This is Tiny Dancer. Tiny Dancer uses a C major chord to an F chord, but we do a lot of picking in this where we add extra notes, in this case a D note, but still very much in the key of C major. Now, Tiny Dancer is undoubtedly in the key of C major, from what I've demonstrated there and from every move that happens in the song. But it's doing a lot of similar things as to what Wild Wood did, which was more, when it was more in the verses, in the key of A minor, because they're related. We can borrow the same chords. So the second half of the verse, F major, ballerina, E minor 7, A minor 7, D7 over F sharp, D minor, dancing in the sand. But it does resolve back to C and then C to F. But all those other chords we were adding, E minor, A minor, D major, E major, it's starting to seem similar to the key of A minor actually. So something to be aware of. But very much in the key of C major. The bridge to Tiny Dancer goes kind of, oh, how it feels so real, lying here with no one near. You wouldn't really think that's in the key of C major, because, I mean, we've got a C minor in it, which is very rare. Only you and you can hear me, where I say softly, slowly. But when we get to the big ending, the big chorus, hold me closer, tiny dancer, we have F major, C over E, so C major with the lowest E ringing out, D minor. We're in more familiar territory, and all of those chords absolutely resolve to C major. So you know by just listening to it and feeling that resolve or a lack of resolve, a tension, that resolve when we play a C chord after those chords means it's the key of C. That's the underlying test to this, as well as looking at how it's written on a sheet of paper with sharps and flats and whatnot. The other example I wanted to give you guys is another piano example. It's Piano Man. Again, sounds fantastic on guitar. Piano Man by Billy Joel on guitar can be played with basic open chords. C major, G, F, C, F, C, D7, G. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in, but you can give it more of the piano sound that's on the original recording, just a hint of it, by playing the C major scale descending from that lower root note, and basically the rest of the time you can pretty much play a C major chord in the higher strings, but D7 to G to resolve it. And I'll do a similar move to that now. Gives us a little bit of that feel, and it's just folk strumming. Pick the root note, down, up, down, up. definitely one to be aware of. I even have a tutorial for that on piano. But I wanted to finish up with a guitar classic from the 90s. I've got a tutorial coming for this real soon, but this uses more standard guitar playing and is in the key of C, but does some funky stuff in it, man. This is a great song. This is Paul Weller, Changingman. Not only do we have this great picking pattern and a descending progression, basically keeping the C chord at all times in the higher strings, but we also have some power chords that move away from the diatonic chords we've covered so far. So where do these come from? Some of you have guessed it already. They come from the minor pentatonic. The one that you might know more off by heart, that you've played more frequently, uses the notes C, E flat, F, G, B flat, and C. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes until they repeat at the octave. And Paul's using some of those: C, E flat, F, and then A flat, which is more from the riff. Super creative, and again, it's still in the key of C major predominantly, but it borrows other chords from other keys, and that's absolutely fine. Let me know any questions you have about this in the comments below, and I'll help you all I can. I'll leave some other videos on screen now that I think you might enjoy, that might illuminate some other ideas around this fantastic topic of musical keys, of learning songs by ear, spotting common chord progressions, and learning songs quicker and easier. More help with all of that at the website andyguitar.co.uk, with online courses, with weekly live streams with me every Monday, and a Discord community where we offer peer-to-peer support, connecting like-minded learners worldwide. Join us over there if you want more of this, and I'll see you there. Bye-bye.